Hola, mi gente. Welcome back for another episode of Tuesday Tea with V. Unfortunately, my co-host C is not here with me today. She did have a surgical procedure done, so she will not be here for this episode. She will be back soon, but in the meantime, you can go ahead and send her some well wishes and some love and just some healing energy. She's doing great. All is fine, but she is taking this time to just kind of get stronger and join me back on our podcast. But we also have some exciting information, which I don't think I've posted today yet, but I will post, well, by the time you see this, it will already be posted, regarding our Patreon, because we hopefully will have our first Patreon episode released this Friday. So if you haven't subscribed already on here on our public podcast and channels, please do so. You can find us anywhere at Tuesday Tea with V, whether that be here on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and we will also now be on Patreon. So we will have a channel on Patreon, same Tuesday Tea with V channel. However, those are for episodes that we don't really feel comfortable talking about to the just general public, so openly. These are some crazy, juicy secrets and episodes that, we've kind of kept to ourselves. And if you would like to join, be sure to check on our Instagram. My Instagram handle is Tuesday Tea with V, and I will post some information on there to find our Patreon. I think it's even linked in my bio, our Patreon. So if you want to just click that link and go ahead and join, there's 2 tiers. And if you join the second tier, you will get access to the videos for whatever we are discussing, and probably some extra exclusive content that we'll be posting on there. But like I said, those episodes are exclusively for Patreon. We're going to be talking about things that we don't want everyone listening to. I'm just going to be honest. It's just private stuff. You're going to have to go there for that. So just be on the lookout. But that's exciting. We have that coming this week. We've already pre-recorded our first episode. We've just been waiting for the right time to just be able to release it and just get that out there. It's just been hectic. Time has come. So check that out. And please don't forget to, I'm so appreciative of the growth on the channels, and I'm really grateful. So with that being said, we're going to jump into today's episode, which is my teen mom story. I'm not going to even sit here and lie. I started recording this episode over an hour ago, and here I am starting from the beginning. I broke down, cried, had to take a little break, and decided I just needed to start over. So here we are. I'm hoping that I can just get this done this time. And it's hard going back to a time when you just felt abandoned and alone, and so many different feelings that I've gone through. So I'm excited to share it with you all, and maybe help someone out there. That's really my motive, and what I really hope to do through my channels is help someone, inspire someone, support people going through the same things that I've gone through, and helping them in any way that I can. I really find joy out of helping and being able to be there for people. I was a teen mom, which is what this episode is going to be about. This episode is going to kind of just be about me telling my mom and getting to that point of, when I got pregnant, when I found out I was pregnant, and telling my mom, and kind of just the short after. There will be more episodes on my journey as a single teen mom and raising my child, and, what happened after my baby was born. I will definitely go into those episodes, but this is just my starting point. I've been really dying to get this episode recorded and out there, so I'm excited to do this. I also want to say, please be careful, use protection, especially in my situation. I was very young, very naive. I didn't have much knowledge on any sexual education at all. In my house growing up, just to give you a little bit of background, growing up, I grew up in a Puerto Rican household. My mom, so in Spanish households, I guess the reason I say that is because Spanish households, for me growing up, it was very common for women to get pregnant young. And, it was kind of just like this cycle. The women got pregnant very young. They had the kids. They stayed home. They cooked. They cleaned. They took care of the husband. The husband worked and took care of the home. And it was just kind of like this repetitive cycle. And, my mother, I knew she had all these like aspirations and things that she wanted to do and dreams that she wanted to make come true. My mom had me when she was 17 years old. So she was also a teen mom, and her mom was a teen mom. So one thing that was huge in my house was do not get pregnant as a teen. School, get your career going, get married, like please just do things the right way. And, I thought I would. I was a high honor roll student. I was a very good student. I wasn't allowed to do anything. My mom was so strict. It was sickening. My mom grew up in a household where her mom really didn't give a crap. Like she just kind of let her do whatever she wanted to do. All of them, her and her siblings. So they really didn't have many like rules or things that they had to follow. So it was kind of like a free for all for them. I'm the oldest out of my siblings. So when she had me, it was a complete 360. And I find it funny how from what your parents did, you go like the extreme opposite of what they did in some cases. My mom saw that or felt that in her growing up without having any rules and things that she had to follow and just being able to do whatever she wanted, that was the reasoning behind her being able to get pregnant at 17 years old. So my mom was like the complete opposite to where she was extremely strict. I was allowed to go outside and like play like right there where she could see me at all times with whatever friends were close by. But where I grew up, there were a lot of like bar mitzvahs and bat mitzvahs, and I wasn't even allowed to really go to those growing up. And she was very particular about whose house I was able to go over and stay at. Now, I'm the same way with my daughter in that sense, whereas she's not allowed, she's definitely not allowed to sleep, no sleepovers. I don't do sleepovers. Maybe when she's older. She's allowed to have people stay over if their parents are, okay with that. I don't. Anyway. So, my mother was very particular with where I was allowed to go, like whose house and where I was allowed to like sleep over. It was really only like certain friends that I was allowed to like stay at their house and stuff like that. So she was very strict, very, very, very strict. And so kind of backtracking a little bit. So I was a late bloomer. I didn't really like get my period or anything like that until I was 14 years old. I was, pretty late with all that stuff. And I got my first boyfriend around 14. When you're 15, like you want to be able to hang out with your boyfriend. You want to, you think you know it all about life and everything else, and you have not the slightest idea. But, so I had my boyfriend in high school. We were, boyfriend and girlfriend, and, you kind of just wanted to like hang out. We always had like the same friends in the area. We lived like in the same development. So just wanted to be able to hang out and see each other. And I remember there was one friend in particular. My mom would always let me stay over her house really quickly because I feel like I'm kind of like jumping ahead. But as far as one parent doing like the extreme, like, my mother's, they were so lenient. I feel like you have to find that balance. You really have to find that balance between the two. You have to be able to show your child that you trust them. And in the same token, you can't be too lenient or lax either. So there was one friend in particular, I was allowed to stay over her house. My mother really was fond of their family. We all got along really well, and she knew them pretty well. So I was allowed to stay over at her house. And I remember, we'd always see like in the movies and stuff like that where the kids would like sneak out and they'd put like dolls under the blankets and then cover it up to make it look like you were there and you'd get away with it. But we definitely tried it, and we did that. We'd be like, oh, we're going to sleep in the basement tonight, and, we'd bring like snacks down there and movies. Sorry, my dog's playing with his toy. That's kind of like, we did that. We like legit put dolls under the blankets and like covered it. We'd line them up like to make it look like a person and covered it. And we got away with that twice. On the third time we did it, we got caught. But it was the summer of 90, I'm trying to think. My son was born in 97, so this was the summer of 96. So it was the summer of 96, and it was the third time we had done it, and that was the night that we got caught. Now, mind you, I was pregnant at this time, but I didn't know yet. I had no idea that I was pregnant. This is why I said, it's so important to use protection, be careful, talk to an adult, don't be afraid, because it can happen the first time. It can happen when you really don't even know what's going on, and you have to be so careful. Using protection and speaking with people you trust, you have to. So, now, because my mom and my friend's mom, whose house that I stayed at, our parents were so strict. I mean, so strict. So I remember telling her, I was like, if we ever get caught, my mother's going to kill me, like literally kill me. And she's like, yeah. She's like, if we get caught, my mom's going to kill me. So I was like, we're going to have to like run away. Like if we ever get caught, we have to leave. What are we going to do? So it was like our little pact. We were like, if we ever get caught, let's just run away so that we don't get in trouble. I don't really know what our plan was. We didn't have one. At 15, you really don't have a plan, right? We winded up making that little pact between us. And it was the third time that, we figured out we can get away with this. We would sneak out in the middle of the night once we knew her parents were asleep and everyone in the house was asleep. We would sneak out and then we'd go hang out with our friends and our boyfriends, usually at my boyfriend's house. And we were like, this is great. So the third time we did it, there was a phone call from our local police department had called, and we already knew it was bad because it was like 1 a.m, between like 12 and 1, and the house phone was ringing, and my boyfriend at the time, my son's father, picked up the phone and was like, didn't say anything. He just froze and handed the phone over to me. And I remember he didn't say a word. I took the phone, put it against my ear, and it was like, this is blah, 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 police department. Have you seen? And they said our names. And I already knew, like, we got caught. So I remember hanging up the phone and telling my friend, like, we gotta go. I don't even think she was like near me at that moment. I don't know. It was a long time ago. But I remember telling her, like, we gotta leave. Like, we're caught. They're looking for us. And she was like, what? So we just got our stuff as quickly as we can and we ran out that door. Now, where we lived, there was like a lot of like wooded area, woods and stuff like that. So we winded up just like making our way to the woods at that moment. And we winded up staying there for like a couple hours. I remember like we were huddled up together against each other. And it's so sad when I look back and think, and, I was a child and just being so scared and so fearful in that moment to just not, I don't know, it's sad. So we kind of just sat there, huddled up. We stayed there for what felt like hours. It was hours. I remember we almost got caught because there was one point where the police officers, they were looking for us. So they had a flashlight and they were so close to us. We could see the light. We could hear them walking. And we were so scared. We were shaking, like so scared. And then they didn't see us. So they winded up like turning around and leaving. Came really close to getting caught. We only lasted 2 nights like away before we eventually got caught. I don't know how we thought we weren't going to, but we stayed there till like the sun started to come up and we were like, all right, we were getting hungry. We were tired. We were like, all right, what are we going to do? So we winded up, there was a bus stop very close by. So we ran to catch a bus. Well, I'm sorry. This was the time of payphones. So we went to a payphone to call our other best friend who had lived like in a town over. And we said to her, we were like, look, we this is the deal. This is what happened. Like, can we please come there? Can we just eat, like take a shower? And obviously they had already contacted her parents. So they were already looking for us there. The police had gone there. So she was like, you can, cause her mom was at work. She's like, you can come here. It's funny. Nowadays you wouldn't be able to get away with this with like the whole Ring doorbell and all that stuff. You would never get away with this. But she's like, you can come here. She's like, come shower. She's like, but you guys have to be quick because if my mom sees you here, like she's going to tell them. So we're like, that's fine. So we hopped on a bus. We only had enough to get the bus from where we were to her house. That was it. So we didn't even have like any extra money to get anywhere else. So we get there, we shower, we eat a little bit, and she gives us money for a bus to take it from there to the mall. So we went to the mall. So we ended up going to the mall, and one of our other good friends at the time, she had an older cousin. It was like, I don't know, 20, maybe even like early 20s. And he worked in a local store near us. And he, we were like, please, can you call him? Like, see if we can just come there. We knew that he lived in a development close by and had his own place. And we were like, please, like, can we just go there and stay there for a little bit until we figure out what we're going to do? So, he did. He let us go there. We went there. He like fed us. He's like, the cops had even gone to his job. So he's like, you can't stay here. The cops are looking for you guys, and what are you going to do? And he's like, you guys could stay for one night. He goes, but you really need to figure out what you're going to do. And, I got to drop you off somewhere tomorrow. So our plan was to go to Brooklyn. I think, I don't know if I mentioned this because like I said, I recorded this more than once because it was a little too much for me, too heavy. So, I was born in Brooklyn, New York. We moved to Jersey when I was 4 with my stepdad. My stepdad and my mom got married, and my stepdad was the one who raised me. My stepdad was pretty lenient. He wasn't as strict as my mom. And him and my mom were together from, the time I was like 4. And then when I was 14, so a year before all this happened, they separated. So, my dad, my stepdad, I say my dad, I always call my stepdad my dad. To me, he is my father. He's my dad. So when I say my dad, I'm referring to my stepdad. They had split up when I was 14 years old. So, I'm sure that had something to do with like my acting out, I guess, at the time, or just, I don't know. But, so that was a year before all of this madness happened. But yeah, so I grew up in Jersey, but my paternal side of the family, like my dad, my grandma, my aunt, they were all in Brooklyn. I would go to visit Brooklyn every other weekend, and then sometimes every weekend. And I would go there a lot during the summer. And I loved it because it was much more freedom. There wasn't as strict rules. If anything, my grandmother was the one that took care of me when I was there, not really my father. My grandmother did, but there were no rules. She was kind of one, she was my grandma, and 2, I wasn't there often. So I got away with a lot over there. So I guess that's why I felt like, let me run away to Brooklyn where I can do whatever I want to do, as a child. That's how I thought. So, that was my plan. Our plan was to go to Brooklyn and live a life over there. I don't know. So, when we told him our plan, the guy that we were staying with, my friend's cousin, luckily he was smart. He's like, I'm not driving you out of state. I'm not crossing state lines. And, he would have gotten in a lot of trouble. Looking back, I'm grateful that he didn't. But he's like, anywhere local, he's like, I will gladly drop you guys off. And so we went local. This was 2 nights after everything had transpired, running away and getting caught and all that. And we went to a town nearby. We got dropped off, and that was eventually where we got caught. We were there, and we were just kind of sitting on a curb, I think, and 2 cops came up to us, and they were like, can you please identify yourselves, and ask for our names. And we knew right then and there we were caught. I remember we were in the back of the police car, and I was just hysterical because I'm like, you don't understand. My mother is going to kill me. I was like, just please, put me in a detention center. I was begging to be locked away. That's how terrified I was. Mind you, I still didn't know I was pregnant. I didn't think so yet, that reality didn't really sink in. So go to the police station. our parents were separated at that point. Our parents get us. We're like punished for an eternity. I think the hardest part was for me was like the disappointment in my mom, like in my mom's face, like just letting her down. And, you know, I was a really good student, a really good kid. I was very quiet, very shy, high honor roll student, got good grades. I didn't get into trouble as a kid. I wasn't like, you know, I was a good kid. So this was kind of like really unexpected. I know, for my mom, and she didn't react the way I thought she would for that, because when I got pregnant, she did. But to running away, I think she kind of knew what is going on here. Like, there's something deeper that I need to figure out that is going on. So she really did try to bond with me during that time. I remember she would like just try to talk to me and try to get things out of me. And I was kind of like just shutting down at that point. I think I was embarrassed. I was ashamed of what I had done. So I was on punishment for, I don't even know. I know definitely this happened in June, July. So I remember like I was punished for like the rest of the summer. And so I was home. I wasn't allowed to go anywhere, do anything. And my mom would call and check on me all the time to make sure I wasn't at a friend's house or to make sure I didn't have friends over. And I finally started getting that inkling that I was pregnant. Like, I had that feeling. My boobs were sore. I started feeling a little like queasy. I was a little late with my period, but like I said, I was a late bloomer because I didn't get my period until I was like 14. I was only 15 at the time, and I wasn't, I don't know, I really like, it wasn't like that regular at that moment, so I wasn't sure if I was late, but I just had this feeling, like I started getting like this feeling that I was. And so when my mom would be at work, I would call, you know, friends and on the phone and be able to talk to them, because that was like the only time I'd be able to talk to people. And I told one of my best friends who lived like 2 blocks away from me, she was like really close by. And I told her, I said, I think I'm pregnant. I have a funny feeling. And she was like, she called another friend of ours to go get a pregnancy test, and she brought it over to me that day. So she just dropped it off because we were all terrified of my mother. Like we were all scared of her. So she drops it off and she leaves, and I told her I'll call her, and I took the test, and it was positive, but it was actually like it was such a faint line that I remember my best friend was like, it's so faint. She was like, it might not even be positive. And I was like, well, if I'm going to tell my mom I'm pregnant and I'm not, then I don't know what I'm doing. But I don't know. I just had this instinct, inside that I thought, I kind of had this feeling that I was. So I knew once I saw the test with the faintest line that it was positive. I was like, I gotta go. Like, I gotta pack my stuff and leave, because I just ran away and gave my mom a heart attack and like stressed her the F out for how many days. And now to throw this on her, I felt really guilty. I felt guilty. I felt ashamed all over again, even more so than before. And just so many feelings. So I winded up packing my stuff. I didn't have much. I just took like some clothes. I threw it in a black garbage bag. And I don't know, that black garbage bag was pretty significant to me, I guess. I'll tell you why later. I don't know. It was just me and a black garbage bag, like just kind of left in the street. So, but I remember throwing everything in there, or what I needed, or what I thought I needed, and telling my best friend I needed to come there and stay with her until my mom got out of work. And then I wanted her to tell my mom. I was like, I can't tell her. You have to tell her. And she was scared. She was like, I don't know. Don't you think it's better that you tell her? And I was like, no, it's not. So packed my stuff, went to her house. Now, I had mentioned that, I spent a lot of time in Brooklyn, New York, because my dad lived there, my grandma lived there, my real father, my biological father. So I spent a lot of time there with my grandmother primarily, but my grandmother lived in an apartment building in Brooklyn, and she was like on the 2nd floor. And then on the 4th floor, a girl that I became really close friends with from really small lived there. We were the same age. We were like a couple months apart. So her and I really bonded and became good friends. So while I was at my friend's house, the one that the one that I stayed with once I found out I was pregnant. It was her phone. I was calling. I called my good friend in Brooklyn, and I was telling her about it. And, just telling her I'm pregnant. I don't know what I'm going to do. And she's like, where's your mom? She's going to freaking kill you. I was like, yeah, I know. Thanks for the reminder. And as I'm on the phone with her, we hear tires screeching down the road, like screeching. So my best friend and I look out the window, the kitchen window, and we see my mom's car. So I hang up with my friend on the phone. I'm like, I gotta go. She's here. That was the last thing my friend in Brooklyn, New York heard from me. And then I hung up the phone. So my best friend whose house I was at, she goes running out first. And my mom is like storming out of the car, and she's like, where the fuck is she? Where is she? And she's like, hold on. She's inside. And my mom's trying to just like barge through her to go get me because I'm on punishment. So my mom just thought I was trying to like sneak out and hang out, and I got caught like sneaking out while on punishment. And she's like, no, I have to tell you something. She's like, she's pregnant. And that was it. My mom came in there. I was actually on my way out of the house too. And my mom just grabbed me by my hair, threw me in the back seat of the car, and was just so bad. I mean, just yelling things at me and just so disappointed in me. And we were just driving. I didn't know where we were going. I didn't know what was going on. She had bought pizza. She had bought pizza for her and I to have for dinner that evening. And she threw the pizza at me in the car. We were, at this point, I started to realize we were headed to Brooklyn, which I was so relieved about. Because I'm like, all right, if I could just make it to Brooklyn, like, please. Because when we were driving over that bridge that day, my mom was saying she just felt like throwing us off the bridge, which was really scary. I mean, it was scary. It was traumatizing. Yeah, it was not a good feeling. It was not a good situation. It was horrible. And she said she felt like throwing us off the bridge. So I really didn't know if we would even make it to Brooklyn, but I knew because we were going over the Verrazano Bridge, I was like, all right, I knew that's where we were headed. And I remember just praying, saying, please God, just let us get there. Like, please. I knew, or I thought that once I got to Brooklyn and my grandmother saw me, like I would be okay. I'd be fine. Things were going to be okay. And my mom got from New Jersey to Brooklyn in under 20 minutes, or maybe 20 minutes max. When I tell you, like, it's at least a 40-minute drive. It's not a long drive from where we are in Jersey to Brooklyn. It's fairly close, but she got us there in half the time. That's how like erratic and just crazy she was driving, and I guess her feelings and emotions took over. And that was, like I said, that was one thing that my mom didn't want me to do, was just get pregnant as a teenager, get pregnant before finishing college, no less high school. I did go back and finish, but it was heartbreaking for her, and I get it, but I also know that the way she handled the whole situation was completely wrong. But anyway, so we get to Brooklyn, New York, and so in New York, in the apartment building, my grandmother lived there, but my father, my biological father, lived with her. So he lived in the same apartment that my grandmother lived in. And my grandmother worked, she worked majority of the time. So we get there, my mother parks, and we go inside the apartment building where they live, and my mom's banging on my dad's door, banging on the door, and my dad opens the door very confused as to like why we're even there. And he's like, Vanessa, he's like, what are you doing here? And my mom's like, well, here's your daughter. You can keep her. She's pregnant. And then people wonder why I had to deal and go to therapy for like abandonment issues. It's been a journey, but the beauty of it all is that you can recognize these things and look back and be able to understand why you are the way you are, why you react to certain things the way you do, and deal with it, get through it, like deal with it through therapy, through counseling, through journaling, through whatever it is that helps you get through those feelings. Because there's a reason that you have those emotions and those ties. But yeah, so my biological father looks at me and looks me up and down and is like, "You're not fucking staying here." Those are his exact words to me. "You're not fucking staying here," and slams the door in my face. Now at that point, my mom had already left. It's so crazy because I remember this day like it was yesterday. Like I vividly remember so much, so many details, maybe that's why too, I knew this episode would be really hard for me to do. It's funny because even subconsciously, yesterday, I'm always excited to record and get an episode in. And this one was really hard for me, really, really hard for me to sit down and click record. But my dad slams the door in my face. He's like, "You're not fucking staying here." Shuts the door. And I just remember sitting. So I don't know if you're familiar with Brooklyn apartment buildings. It's the stairs kind of they go up a floor and then you got there was an apartment on each side and then it goes up a floor. So my dad's door was on, my grandmother's door was on one side and there were steps right here to just go up to the next floor. And I sat right on that step with my black garbage bag and I just sat there and started crying. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know much about anything at that point in my life. So, my friend, the one who lived on the 4th floor, she was going to walk her dog. So she's coming down the stairs with her dog and she's like, "Vanessa, is that you?" And I look up at her just crying, but at the same time, oh my God, hallelujah, a familiar face. I just needed comfort at that moment. I just needed someone to tell me it's going to be okay, and her mom, I'm not going to re-record this time. Her and her mom did just that for me. They really, really did. I am forever grateful to them for doing that for me. Before I could even tell her what, the first thing out of her mouth was, "I just hung up the phone with you." And I was like, "I know." I was like, "She got us here so fast." And she's like, come on. She made me go in her house, put my bag down. We just talked. And right away, first thing she did was call her mom. She let her mom know what was going on, what the situation was. And her mom, got in contact with my mother. My mother was still very angry. She was not at a point where she wanted to really talk and discuss anything. So her mom, my friend's mom, was nice enough to say, "Stay here for a little bit. Let's get you to a doctor. Let's confirm that you're pregnant. Let's do all that stuff and give your mom some time to just cool off and let's see what's going to happen." And that was what we did. I stayed with them. I remember the next day or 2 days after, my friend, she winded up taking me. It was so funny because I didn't know much about anything, let alone how to take a subway or anything. I did not know any of that stuff. I didn't grow up in New York. I didn't, I was not a city girl in the least bit. I grew up in the suburbs. I remember she knew her way around the subways, and we were 15 years old, and she took me to Planned Parenthood there in New York. And it was really so that we can confirm the pregnancy, get a due date, and because I remember the pregnancy test that I took, obviously it was really faint and we weren't even sure. We didn't really know. So that was what we did. And she took me there and they confirmed it at Planned Parenthood. They confirmed that I was pregnant. They confirmed that my due date from them was April 9th. Later, my obstetrician winded up switching the due date to April 29th because she said he was smaller. But I winded up having him April 8th. So I have a funny feeling the first due date was the correct one. And he was 6 pounds, 6 ounces. So it's not like he was really small. I had him at 37 weeks. So I went pretty much full term. Had a really good pregnancy, thank God, being that I was so young. I did turn 16 while I was pregnant, so by the time I had him, I was 16. I actually turned 16 in March, and then I had him in April. Yeah, so we did go to Planned Parenthood and confirm my pregnancy, get that due date, and it was crazy because I remember feeling excited, like being excited about this baby and this life. And it was hard because it's really like you felt like you couldn't be or you shouldn't be. And everyone around me, like made me feel bad. Not my friend that helped me, that let me stay there. God bless her soul, and her mother. So I remember some time had passed, maybe like 2 weeks or so. And she spoke with my mother again. And my mother was ready for me to come back home. She was ready for me to come back home. I was going to go back to school. She was like, you're going back to school. You're doing this pregnant. Good luck. Yeah. And I wasn't really scared anymore of like what she would do per se. I knew she wouldn't do anything, but it was the things that she would say. And I guess my mom, she didn't really know how to just talk to me, that was a thing too. And I think that's why with my daughter, I try to be so big on like communication. Whatever question she asks, I'm very open. I'm very honest. I tell her things that she's able to comprehend and understand at her age level. Because with my mom, it was like, well, if we don't talk about it, it doesn't exist. If I don't tell her about sex, she doesn't know about it. But then what happens is we find out about these things through friends. And half the times they're not necessarily true. So as a parent, you want to be the first one that explains these things to your child or tells these, so that that they're getting firsthand information that is accurate rather than when they do hear from their friends, well, okay, I already know about this and this is XYZ, and my mom didn't really do that with me ever. So whatever I did find out, like sex and stuff, it was like through friends or, whatever they taught us in school, which just wasn't enough. And so I went back home in August, and I went back to school that September. And my mom would make like little remarks. Like I remember at that time, like bell bottoms and like crop tops, which is so funny because here we are full circle, and that's like all back in style again. But I remember that was like coming into style when I had gotten pregnant. I was pregnant. I remember one day I was in my closet, like getting an outfit, and my mom was laying on my bed just watching me. And she's like, well, doesn't it make you feel bad that like all your friends are wearing all these like cute things and like these belly shirts and like you can't even wear that? And I remember I never looked at it like that. Like I didn't feel bad. I was really excited about this new life that I was going to bring into this world. I was excited about this unconditional love that I was going to receive and give back to my child. And when she said that, it kind of like, then it all of a sudden, like that light bulb went off and I was like, oh, well, I didn't look at it that way. I'm like, I guess, like, yeah. And then, like I said, I turned 16 in March and I had a baby shower in March. And I remember she was like, well, how does it feel that like all your friends are having sweet 16s and you're going to have a baby shower? She's like, that kind of sucks, doesn't it? So it was like these little remarks she would make that were, it was painful. Not going to lie. It was painful. It hurt. But I just don't think she really knew how to just communicate with me. She never had that with her mom. And, it was tough. It was rough and it was sad. That was, that's how I found out. That was how I told my mom, which I really didn't. I actually had a friend tell her for me. But, I wasn't a bad student or a bad kid. I was a really great kid, honestly. So that's why I say, like, if you're a parent, talk to your kids, communicate, don't make them feel bad. As a parent, you're not the person that they need to hear that from. Be supportive. I'm not saying obviously let your kids do whatever they want, and but when they have the support of their parents, the trust of their parents, and that communication, that line of communication open, it makes it easier for them to communicate and talk to their parents to where things like that don't happen. And if you're a teen out there, it's the next story that I think I'm going to do, or the next episode, I will probably do my birth story. I'll do my birth story with my son, and then kind of touch on a little bit, after, and how hard it is. I did go to college in my 20s for a different career. I went for teaching and education, but I'm like finishing college again now in my 40s. So it's hard. It's been so hard and so difficult. It's far from easy. So, be really aware of the decisions that you make in your life, because the decisions you make today are going to affect you for the rest of your life, right? We all know that. And I hope that, this episode was rough. It was hard to do. It was really hard. And I guess just reliving those moments and just feeling that pain again was tough. But it's real, it's raw, it's my life, and that's one thing that I did want to bring to this channel was raw honesty, just the truth, the truth, and hoping that if I can just help one person or inspire one person, I'll be happy. And I hope that I was able to do that. And, so sorry. Thank you all for watching. I can't wait to bring you some more tea. Please leave some feedback. Some comments are always appreciated. Let me know your stories if you've had a similar story, or if you know someone going through this. And please don't forget that there are resources out there, whether it's counseling or therapy or just feeling alone. There's always someone to talk to. So don't feel that way. I wish I can go back to when I was 15 and realize, any resources that I had available to me at the time. Luckily, I was blessed with some great friends that had great families that helped me in my time of need, because without those people, I don't know where myself or my family would be, Want to say bye? Yeah. Oh, okay. Come on, let's say bye to the camera. All right. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, rate, review. Like I said, check out the Patreon. Definitely go subscribe on there. Become a patron for all of our exclusive content. That first episode on there starts with a bang. So I'm a little nervous about putting that out there, but hey, what are you going to do? It's my life, right? All right. Say bye, y'all. Bye.
Love, light, peace.
Bye, guys.
V.
See you in 2 weeks. Oh my love.